Hi, I'm Tricia Morris from Club Scrap. Welcome to the Starry Night Card Kit Workshop. I'm so excited to make these dozen cards with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got my kit ready to go here. I've printed a copy of the instructions, which of course is optional. And I've got my accordion pocket file ready to keep me organized. If you don't have something like this, I do have a workshop to help you make one for yourself. This lip here is going to live underneath my guillotine paper trimmer, which is also an important thing to have on hand for this workshop. I'll set aside the envelopes and the goodies and ribbon, and let's hang on to the silk paper this time. We're going to sort all these papers into the order. We'll trim them. After that, we'll score them, and then we'll assemble our cards in sets of 4. When I sort the paper, I usually like to hold it upright like this. And let's go ahead and find the dark blue. And the best way to find the dark blue is just to compare it to the light blue. It's darker. And then our dark yellow, which is really like a golden yellow. It's very, very deep. So beautiful. Then we'll switch to a sheet of the bright blue and a sheet of the light yellow. We're going to repeat all that again. So dark blue, dark yellow, bright blue, and light yellow. From the top of your stack probably is you're going to find 2 of these beautiful prints. Put those face down on your work surface. And then I want you to find the cut apart that has all of these narrow strips plus some blocks along the left edge. Put that face down. And then the other sheet of cut aparts here, it should say like happy birthday on the side. Then we'll trim the 2 sheets of this gold handmade paper. So I'm going to take that whole stack, flip it back over, and I'll set the papers to my left, and I'm going to be looking at step 1 of the instructions. Before we can begin, I'm noticing right away there is an arrow on the trimming diagram for step 1 that says our paper grain needs to dip easily from the top to the bottom. So to start, I'll hold the paper by this edge and compare to what it feels like when I hold it from this edge. Right away, I'm noticing that the paper dips real easily going in this direction. So into the trimmer, top to bottom. Same thing for the dark yellow. We're going to trim these papers the same way, so we're going to trim them at the same time. And again, the grain direction needs to dip easily from top to bottom. I'll stack those papers neatly together, and our first cut here will be at 6 1/4. If this is your first time using this trimmer, just remember that these columns represent 1/4 of an inch, which is really handy. So look at the inch marks, not the centimeters. There's the 6. Move to the left 1/4. Stabilize by pushing down on the clear bar, especially because you have 2 sheets of paper here. And then go ahead and slice, leaving the paper that fell right where it landed, the piece in your trimmer base rotated so it's horizontal. And let's cut at 11 1/2. And 9. Now this 9-inch piece is going to become a card base, and I'm going to set it aside for now to be scored. Then you have this other piece that fell to the right of your blade. Pick those up and place them in pocket C. And if you don't have the pocket file, just have a pile labeled C. Maybe use some sticky notes or something to make designations for your piles. Now this next strip that fell, I'm going to pick this up. Oh, I'm sorry, I did create a little scrap. Sometimes I put those scraps in pocket D in case I decide to use them later. And I'll take this strip now, and we're going to trim both pieces at the same time at 11 1/4, 7 3/4, and 3 3/4. The 3 3/4 inch piece you just made, rotate it so it's horizontal, and let's trim at 5 1/2. So this piece, this is kind of cool what happened here. This piece you just made that's in your trimmer base, and the pieces that just fell, those are designed to nest together, okay? So that's kind of cool. I'm going to put these both in pocket B, both sets of those panels. You have another panel for pocket C, Charlie, and then we did create a couple of scraps, 2 sets of those. They're pretty small and inconsequential. Those will go in pocket D. Guess what? We get to do all of that one more time. So I'm gonna grab this bright blue, check the grain direction so it flops most easily from the front of my trimmer to the bottom, from top to bottom. And then the same with this light yellow. If you're doubting yourself, try pushing in. Like this does not want to push in, and this does, top to bottom. Okay, repeating this now. We'll start at 6 1/4. Stabilize firmly. It's thick, heavy paper. Then rotate and trim at 11 1/2 and 9. This is going to become a card base, needs to be scored, set it aside. You did have this rectangle for pocket C, Charlie, and then 2 little strips for pocket D for you to decide later if you're going to keep them or dispose of them. And now the remaining strip will trim at 11 1/4, 7 3/4, 3 3/4, and rotate and trim at 5 1/2. So these pieces go in pocket B, bravo. The next rectangle's also B, bravo. We've got a narrower panel for C, Charlie, and then again a set of scraps that remain. I'll just get those out of my way in pocket D. Now we are back at a dark blue. Let's find our grain direction. It's the same directive, bending easily top to bottom. That's because future folds of this paper will be in that direction. We want to always fold with the grain whenever possible. And the same for the dark yellow. Make sure it flops easily top to bottom. We have a new pattern we're following here. And the first cut will be at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Rotate the 4 1/4 and trim at 11. The 2 pieces that you made here need to be scored. The pieces that fell, pocket D. Now just go along with me here carefully. Just make every move with me. And if you need to slow down, you can do that by pushing on the settings and then going playback speed 0.75. Okay, so this strip now, we are going to trim at 6 1/2, 3 3/4. Rotate this 3 3/4 inch piece, trim at 4. Next, it's going to go in pocket A for alpha. There were some scraps. I'll pick those up later. Then you have a set of rectangles that will trim at 3 1/4. Pocket B on those. A couple of scraps fell. Then you have a larger panel here. That's for A. Okay, so then you do have, like, I'm just going to pick up all these little tiny scraps and pop those in pocket D. And grab this next narrow strip. We're going to trim this one at 9. These get set aside to become card bases, so we're going to score them. And then this rectangle here, pocket B. Are you ready for some review work? Let's do that all again. So we've got our bright blue, check the grain, and the yellow, check the grain. These are pretty heavy papers again, so make sure you really push down and stabilize. And sometimes if you stand up to trim, that can be nice too. So we'll cut at 8 1/2, 4 1/4. Rotate and trim at 11. We need to score these for cards. You have a little scrap that fell for pocket D. Then I'll pick up the next set of strips. This one we're going to trim at 6 1/2. Remember to go along with me here for some rotations. And 3 3/4. Rotate and trim at 4. This one goes in pocket A. And the next little rectangle, we're going to trim at 3 1/4. It's going to go in B. And then this larger panel, A. Now we've got our series of little scraps. I'll put those in D. And this final strip, a nice easy cut at 9. for this, file this in B, bravo. And now we've arrived at our print. It's nice that this isn't all over print. We don't have to worry about which direction it goes into the trimmer. It's all the same either way, and it doesn't get folded, which is why we don't have to worry about the grain direction. All right, let's trim at 11. 7.5. And 4. All right, rotate this 4-inch piece so it's horizontal, and we're gonna trim a whole bunch of like little sections that are 3/4 of an inch, and then some pieces that are 1.5 inches. All right, so here we go. 11.25, 10.5, 9 3/4, 9, 8.25, 7.5, 6 3/4, 6. Now something a little different. 4.5, 3, 1.5. All right, let's gather up what we have here. Basically, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are the same, that are a little wider for pocket A, and then 8 that are the same, a little narrower, also for pocket A. Now, the next 2 pieces should be the same size. I'm going to face them white side to white side, and the reason I do that is because they're less likely to slip. And I'm going to trim them at the same time at 10.5 and 5.25. You can face everything again and put all of them in pocket B, bravo. And the 2 little ones that fell, those can go in D, David. This guy, I just decided to use it on the inside of a card instead of letting it be a scrap. So I'm going to trim this at 6. Both of these go in pocket B. We have our next printed sheet, and I'm going to turn to page 2 in my instructions. Once again, we don't have to worry about the grain direction of the paper. It exists, but it doesn't matter because it won't be folded. I'll start at 9 3/4, 6.5, 3.25. Now I'll stack up these 2 again back to back and trim at 11. And 5.5. Gather up all these 4 panels that are the same size. Those go in pocket C, Charlie. And there were 2 small pieces that fell from the end. Those are scraps. Now this next strip, we'll start at 10 and 7.5, 5, 2.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of them will be the same for pocket C. And there will be a smaller rectangle that fell from the end. That's a scrap for D. And once again, this would have been a scrap, but I'm going to add it to the inside of a card. So let's just cut it in half at 6. Both go in pocket B. Now we've arrived at this sheet of Cutaparts, and basically with our Cutaparts, we must remove the outer perimeter before we start trimming to ensure that we start at a really nice, accurate place. Now, usually when I make my first slice, I don't go all the way to the little guide mark because I can't see at the top and the bottom. But now that I've made my first cut and rotated, I can see it very, very well. So I'll cut and rotate again to get this side, and then rotate again. This time I can look at my 12 and compare. It looks good over here. One last rotation. This is right where I started. I'm going to take that last shaving, and by shaving, I really mean a shaving. That's how much this trimmer is capable of tearing from the end of a sheet, which is pretty impressive. And with the piece positioned in the trimmer, just like this, where it says, "This is your year to sparkle," that'll be on your right. Let's cut at 9 3/4, 7.5, 5.25, and 3. Now rotate the 3-inch piece. We'll start at 10. I'll make sure that it reads right side up. True friends are like stars. So 10, 7.5, 5, and 2.5. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, the same size for pocket B. And this last piece I did use on the inside of a B card, so a B Bravo. Now the next 2 pieces, let's just stack them. And we're gonna cut in half at 6. Got a nice standard size here. All of them go in pocket C, Charlie. The next 2 pieces are the same as well. Make sure they're just stacked neatly together. Cut at 6 again for C, Charlie. And now we have our last sheet of Cutaparts. So I'm gonna once again remove that outside perimeter. I'll go shy on my first cut, rotate, line it up top and bottom, rotate, line it up, rotate, look at my 12, rotate, look at my 12. Beautiful. Now it may not go that fast for you, so of course work at your pace and pause me as much as needed. Okay, so this should read right side up. You have a fingerprint. And we're going to trim at 10.25, 7. Now this is going to look a little weird here. We have to cut a scrap off of this. So yes, it's 7. And then 3.5. Rotate so that shine on is on your right. We'll cut at 11.25, 7.5, 3.75. 1, 2, 3, the same for pocket A. And then you've got this little guy, the shine, he kind of flew away. That's gonna go in B. Once again, I use it on the inside of a card. Here we go. This piece should go in where it says you don't always see them, but you know they are there. Let's cut that at 10, and then 7.75, and 4. Now the 4-inch piece that says you are special, rotate it so it's vertical, and trim at 3.25. This piece goes in pocket A, and then you have wishing you a birthday, that goes in A also. Then you have 2 panels. These are not the same size. They're both for pocket B. There's a little scrap. It's really small. Maybe just consider throwing it away. Now this last strip here, not last, but second to last, trim at 8 and 4. These 3 pieces go in pocket A. Boy, that's an A. And then we have one last narrow strip here to cut in half at 6. And both of these go in B Bravo as well. Next up, we have this gold handmade paper. And I will say that since it's handmade, it's not always trimmed to the exact expected size. For the first piece, I'm going to place it vertically into my trimmer. Now I can see that this has a more of a curved edge. I'm going to maybe rotate it, see if the other edge is a little neater. And you check yours as well. Oh, that's nicer. Okay, so I'm going to put it vertically, like portrait style at 4. And then rotate. Get a nice level edge here. And I'll cut at 7, 5.25. It's like fabric. 3.5. And 1.75. All right, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces will be the same size for pocket A, and then the others are scraps. You can use at your discretion. And then the second sheet, let me just see how this is looking. Oh, that's pretty good. I'll compare. We're going to trim vertically again. Oh yeah, that's a little better. I'll cut at 4 once again. Rotate and trim at 6. I'm gonna go the other end. Just trying to get my straightest edge. 6, 4.5, 3, and 1.5. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces the same. Again, pocket A. We're burning up all this beautiful handmade paper on one set of cards. The other 2 pieces are scraps for pocket D. At this point, let's lock the blade of our trimmer, support your accordion pocket file so it doesn't fall on the floor, remove your trimmer since that's what's holding up the file, then lay this on its back for the rest of our time together. And let's swap that trimmer for a score pal. So we have this stack that we've been accumulating this whole time, and I'm just gonna tackle it in the order we place those pieces in the stack. So this first piece here is 3.5 by 9. We're gonna score this at 8.5. I know, really weird. And there should be a bright blue one, 8.5. And then just dig down just a little ways. It should be the 3rd and 4th sheet in your pile. It's the same size, so let's do those as well. Score at 8.5. Just want to mention I'm using a metal tip stylus rather than this plastic piece that came with the score pal. I really prefer it. It just kind of does a perfect job. And I'm going to place all of these narrow panels in pocket C, Charlie. Next up, we have these longer cards. I have some specific scoring instructions, so work carefully with me here. The first 2 scoring numbers are 2 and 9. So 2 and 9. Now, take the paper and flip it from the bottom to the top. And we'll score at 3 3/4, 3 3/4, and 7 1/4. 4 score lines on each of these. Continuing on with the repeat, the first 2 numbers again, 2 and 9. Flip bottom to top, and we've got 3 3/4, 7 1/4. You'll have these memorized. Now we have the bright yellow here, 2 and 9, actually the dark yellow, we're calling it. And then flip bottom to top, 3 3/4, 7 1/4. The last one in the dark blue, 2 and 9. So 2, 9, flip bottom to top, 3 3/4, 7 1/4. This is going to be a really fun card structure. You're going to love it. All of these go in pocket A of your accordion pocket file or pile A, again, depending on what you're doing for your organizing. Nice and easy on this last one. The card, if you put it in horizontally, goes to 9. So let's just score it in half at 4.5. We'll do that 4 times. So 4.5 on the bright blue, 4.5 on this dark yellow, and 4.5 on the navy or the dark blue. And all of these are your bases for card set B. Bravo. Okay, you know what that means. Now we can get going with putting together card set A. So I'll turn to page 3 in my instructions and get rid of my score pal. I'm also going to grab my adhesive, a couple of other basic tools like my ruler and things like that. A bone folder is always nice. And job 1 is just to simply empty pocket A. And we added a lot of stuff to that pocket. So I think what's most ideal is if you just take a moment and organize the pieces that were in the pocket by size. So I've got these larger panels here. I've got smaller rectangular panels. I have all of these cut apart sentiments. Some are larger and some are taller, some are shorter. I've got the skinny printed panels. I've got the wider printed panels. My card bases, oh my goodness, so much. I'm going to begin with the non-scored pieces that are the largest in the set. So these are bigger, but this is where we're going to start with these larger panels. So it's going to be a dark blue, light yellow, dark yellow, and bright blue. Now I'm just going to maybe fold on one of these score lines, so I'm burying it of each of these larger scored pieces just so that they fit better on the screen. Just going to fold on the second fold, bury the bump of the score line so that we're following the best practices for folds. So on this dark blue, I'm going to add a light yellow, a bright blue, a dark blue, and a dark yellow. Okay, so we're just distributing all the pieces to the cards. Then a bright blue panel here, a dark yellow. You notice we're adding the missing color, a light yellow, and a dark blue. Next up, we'll add the front sentiment. So wishing you a birthday, you are a fingerprint, and then like the stars, and then you have a fingerprint on this one as well. Now the inside, and as magical as a moonlit night, you are special, and brighten every life you touch, you are special. You have the printed panels. You have wider ones. One card gets each a wide panel. Then you have 8 single little skinny ones. 1, 2 per panel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I have the handmade paper. They're the narrower one per card. The wider one, 1 per card. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of fun stuff going on right there. I'm going to take the smallest envelopes that were provided in your kit. These are an A2. And I'm going to take this 4th card here and drop everything into the envelope, because all of the cards assemble exactly the same way. So once we master one, we've mastered all. And if you want, then you can just pause me after we make our first card and then assemble the rest. And that just saves on filming and editing time for me, because I have a lot going on here at Club Scrap. So I'm going to take you to the part where you'll be able to do this just fine on your own without me. And you can just watch a repeat of the video to remind yourself if you do forget how to assemble these. So funny story, I'm filming along, I'm in the middle of the set B cards and suddenly realized that my camera wasn't rolling. So I'm gonna make another A card with you. I already made this one while you weren't watching. Now I'm gonna make another one. So I had these all prepped and in the envelopes. I'm just gonna grab one of the cards, and just a quick reminder that all of these set A cards go together the same way. So in essence, I'm just getting more done. Okay, so I'm gonna start out with this card base here and then finish folding the prepared scored panel. This is the one that we flipped. So I had one fold going, and then here's another bump of a score line. So I'm gonna bury that bump inside the fold and then burnish it. And then here that exposes another bump. So I'm gonna bring that back. And then I'm gonna find this other bump here, fold in, and you'll notice that there are like these 2 folds that meet in the center. Burnish them, and voila. Okay, so now we have 2 really skinny pieces, and this seems like a weird task, but what I want you to do is glue or adhere them, whichever way whatever kind of adhesive you prefer to use. I like a liquid adhesive for smaller objects. When I'm placing them, it gives me a little bit more time to get them positioned how I want them, and it's just easy to work with. Okay, so I put these little wings on my base. It's about 1/8 of an inch from each edge, and now my goal is to see this. I've got these 2 flaps here. I got a mountain fold, then a valley fold in this center area. The goal is to glue this center area onto the center of my card base. To help me find the center, I'm going to use my grid ruler and position it so that it's centered on the card base. So the ruler is right side up, the 0 is here, and then the 2 3/4 inch mark is on the edge of the card. So now my ruler is 0, it's centered. So here I'm going to turn this over, and I'll apply just my favorite adhesive here onto the back of this funky wingy card base, and I'm going to hold up those center flaps so I can line this up, and the center mark is going to be 1 3/4 on each side. Puts me at center. Now, if you're not comfortable or familiar with finding the center of things and centering, it's a good skill to have. I do talk about it quite a bit, but you can just eyeball it. Basically, you want it right in the middle of the card. And now I have these fun little wings, and there is a center sentiment here that goes on the inside of the card. Let's go ahead and add it, and it's going to say on this one, and brighten every life you touch. Oh, that's sweet. Now we have this piece right here. It's a print, and it should fit on the second scored area. Then the narrower print, the narrower handmade. I'm going to add adhesive to this outside wing also. And this is where you really do want to use the dry adhesive, like the ATG. And it really bonds beautifully with the handmade paper. So the wider one fits on the outer wing, and the narrower one fits on the inner wing. Okay, that's that. Here I'm going to trim off a piece of this light yellow taffeta edge satin ribbon. Say that 3 times fast. And I'll grab some cellophane tape, and I'm just going to add it to the top here, just for a little special touch, a little softening touch. And while I'm here, I will adhere this to my panel. The final secret I'm going to share with you now, this is so cool, is this is going to center right on top of that pop-up flaps, but we only want to add it to the left flap, the one that doesn't have any paper on it. So to strategize that, here's what I do. Take the piece and flip it over top to bottom and lay it where it's going to live. You can right away see the seam between the 2 flaps, so only add adhesive on the left side of the seam. Flip it back over and just visually center it into the space. And then the card opens beautifully. Isn't that sweet? I love this structure. So fun and easy, adorable, nice and flat for mailing. It can go in your envelope. And yeah, this is the other one that I made when you weren't watching. And then the other 2 styles have, the difference is the double looped bow. It's just 2 lengths of ribbon that are threaded through like this to make a nice flat bow without a big knot, which is pretty great. Now, also, you might want to add some of the Dazzles stickers, Jewel Dazzles, and this is how they come. And this is how I like to use them. So I just remove the negative backing, and you can maybe find another craft, another thing you want to do with that. I'm sure there are millions of ways you can use the reverse of the circles, but for these, I like to pick them up with the tip of a craft knife, and they can get a little squirrely. And you can use different sizes. There's a small, there's a medium, and a large, and just add them anywhere you want. They're just really sweet, easy to work with if you just kind of go with the craft knife route, I think. I mean, that's the way I prefer to use them. And that's going to add just the right touch of sparkle to the cards without adding bulk, which is, I think, one of the reasons why I'm so hooked on those Dazzles stickers, the jewel ones. Those are my favorite. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside, and now we'll empty pocket B and distribute all of those pieces. So here I'm gonna empty pocket B. Now of note, I've already emptied pocket B and done this once because I was having a camera malfunction. So what you're gonna wanna do is sort the pieces by size and fold each card base in half so that the bump of the score line is on the inside of the fold. Then with your favorite bone folder, go ahead and burnish those folds so they lay nice and flat. Now let's get all these pieces distributed. We'll start out with the yellow, the dark yellow. That's going to be a horizontal card. And then the bright blue will be horizontal. And then the light yellow and dark blue will be vertical. Find your largest card panels, and we'll put a bright blue on this one, a light yellow here, a dark blue here, and a dark yellow on this one. You've got another panel, slightly smaller, still a solid color. So continuing on, we'll put a light yellow here, a dark blue, a dark yellow, and a bright blue. Moving on, we've got a print now we can distribute. Cool. How about another panel? How about a couple of more panels? Oh my goodness, I just went crazy with this one. Here we are going to add the missing color. So dark blue has not been used, dark yellow, bright blue, light yellow. And the next piece will be a plain panel that matches the color of the card base. So dark yellow, bright blue, light, oh, I got it switched, light yellow, and dark blue. It should nest, and if not, just switch them around. How about some sentiments? We have 2 horizontal sentiments. The universe needs more people like you, and then true friends are like stars on those vertical cards. The horizontal cards will each receive this long, narrow sentiment and just a long, narrow print. Then the other 2 cards I'm going to put the dark blue, you don't always see them here, and then the brighter one on this one. And then this will get the larger landscape piece, and then this one will get the shine on piece. Plus on the inside, these two larger panels. Yikes! Lots and lots of nesting can happen on these cards. So once again, I like to feed the cards in vertically. That way I know, hey, that card's not done. You need to finish that. And it takes me less time to slide into the envelope. If it's kind of vertical like this. And let's just make this one together. We're probably going to use our grid ruler quite a bit because we have a lot of panels to nest, and I like to make sure everything's nice and even and straight. We're just going to nest all the panels, the larger panels, together, but don't place them onto the card base quite yet. So I think a visual centering is fine with an 1/8 inch margin. That's the space between the edge of the card and the edge of the panel. Now let's nest these, the smaller sentiment. The universe needs more people like you. That's going to go here. And then this will go onto the dark blue. Cool. Then I'm going to make sure that this is kind of centered. It looks like my margin might be like 1/4 inch. Yeah. 2 cubes on my ruler will make this margin equal top, left, and bottom. I like to have that in place. So top, left, and bottom, 2 cubes. Lovely. Now we have these awesome stars. They're nice and flat. And you also have the yellow wax cord. So I'm going to take a piece of this cord. It doesn't have to be very long. And I'm going to suspend it from the top of one of the points of this star. So I'm going to take the loop end and I'm going to thread it through a point on the star. Just like kind of like a luggage tag. I don't know. I always refer to this as the luggage tag technique because that's how I add a luggage tag at the airport if I forget my little name tag. So now I have this cute little suspending star, and I also want it to wrap from the bottom too. So I'm going to cut another pretty short length of this where it's folded in half. Grab the loop, and I'm going to thread it right through that loop right there, I think. Just the petal that's below the center of the star. Okay, and then open the little loop and thread. I like working with this wax cord. It's just so cooperative. There, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'll grab some cellophane tape again, and I'm going to split up these ends a little bit so that I can see the cord. And I'm just going to tape it to the back here. That's nice. And then I'm going to do the same at the bottom, just so it looks, you know, like it's hanging there. Bring that around. Oh, that's really sweet. I think it's going to be a 2 cube reveal on this. So now it's time to add our adhesive to the back. And I will once again bring in my grid ruler to help me find 2 cubes from the bottom and the side. Okay, then on the inside, I'm just going to add this right here, and I'll add the inner sentiment right below it, and that gives you a little decor, but also enough space for you to sign your name beneath the sentiment. And that's it. That's all there is to it on this card. So, of course, you're going to want to add some of the dazzles. There's the inside of the one we made together. Here's its partner. So sweet. And then the vertical ones are just turned. Add those little jewel dazzles and then suspend it from 2 points of the star going left and right. And then you can add your panel here and your sentiments. Same with its friend. I just added this also. Isn't that fun? And so easy. All the nesting, all that math. I love how it all worked out. We are moving on to set C, and I am verifying that both of my cameras, all of my cameras are in full working order. Let's do it. Okay, let's empty pocket C. And don't forget, you still have all that stuff in D, so if you wanted to add more things to your cards, you certainly can. But I'm just keeping it simple, and we will sort our sentiments, our panels, all things of like sizes should go together, and there are quite a few panels again on this set of cards, so just pause me as needed and get everything arranged. Let's begin by laying out our card bases. That has the little score, so it's like a 3.5 by 9-inch piece with a small score line, dark yellow, bright blue, dark blue, and light yellow. Now in the stack, you're going to find the largest panel. I want you to find the match. So again, the same colors, dark yellow, bright blue, dark blue, light yellow. Now each of these is going to receive one of the larger printed panels and also a smaller printed panel, like so. And then it's going to get this narrow panel. So we'll go dark blue, dark yellow, light yellow, bright blue. And then our sentiments with sincere sympathy are the top two. And then this is your year to sparkle are the second two. And then we have that really sweet sentiment. Perhaps they are not stars, but rather openings in the heavens where the love of our lost ones pours through and shines down upon us to let us know they are happy. Those are beautiful. And then the remaining two sentiments, it's that heart of gold and stardust soul that makes you beautiful. Those are the cards and all of their parts and pieces. So I'm going to take these long envelopes, and the card base isn't going to fit in there because it's not yet folded. It's too large. So once again, you kind of need to slide things in as you're able. And then we'll make that one together so you can see how this clever card works. I love that it attaches from the short edge rather than your typical slimline card, which attaches from the long edge. So let's take the card base itself, find your bone folder, and I'm going to bury the bump of that little score line there. Okay. And then here we have this other panel, and that's going to sit on top of that little flap you just made, that little tiny tab. I will add liquid adhesive to the front of the tab when it's folded, and then I'm going to lay this on top of it. Then bring the card up and make sure that, you know, all the edges are nice and lined up and level. Another great reason at this stage of the game for this particular step, great reason to use the liquid glue. It gives you that time, that flexibility. And then we can nest this print. Now, before we do that, I want to add some ribbon, and I did something fun here. I did a combo. So I'm going to trim off a length of ribbon that when it's folded in half, it goes just, you know, not above the halfway point on this panel. And I'm going to fold the ribbon in half, rest it against the left edge of this panel, wrap the ends around to the back, and grab some of my tape. Okay, that was the light yellow. Now I'm going to grab some of this blue, and I'm going to cut a length that I know is going to be able to, well, I'll just do it. I'm going to thread this through the loop that I made, pull, and then make sure that the ribbon is long enough to wrap around to the back. Give that a nice little tug, but you don't want it bending the card. You just want to make sure that it goes through, wrap the ends around to the back, and secure. While we're there, let's add some adhesive and attach our panel. Now you have, this is where your flap is, right? So this piece is designed to fit. I love how that worked out. I did a fair amount of recalculating to make all this happen. Okay, and then we have the with sincere sympathy can nest onto the deep blue here. Give it a little strength. All right, now what we want is equal margin, top, bottom, and right. I think it's going to be 3 cubes. Let's see. 4 cubes. 4 cubes on the ruler. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Now, we only want, this is just like this other card where we don't want to adhere the whole thing. We just want it to be attached to the larger panel on the left. So here's my placement, 4 cubes from the top, bottom, and right edge. Flip it over, top to bottom, or bottom to top. That's the seam. No adhesive past that mark. So I can put it here, here, and here. So I'm not even really finding the center. I'm just counting cubes on my ruler because I don't need to know the center, but then I'm gonna put it back, drop it in, and then it opens where it's supposed to with no adhesive here. Cool, right? Now, because it was 4 cubes, if you really want, you can do 5 cubes on this because this isn't nested against anything. So I need to calculate for that. You just want to make sure it's not peeking out past the front sentiment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Look at that. Add a couple of dazzles in different sizes to this, and you're done. I love these cards. They're so beautiful. How about we take a look at the rest of them? Okay, so we made this one together. Then the other sympathy card. Look how cool it looks with the dazzles there. I just used the art as my placement guide. Here, instead of doing the double loop bow, I just tied a knot into the ribbon. It still is relatively flat. I think it'd be fine for mailing. And then of course you have the envelope to fit. And you're all set. Give yourself a pat on the back. Oh, and while you're here, don't leave. Don't leave. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. I'm looking to grow my channel. The only way I can do that is if you subscribe and if you watch my videos. You'll learn something new every time. And consider joining Club Scrap if you're not already a member. Of course, you can buy kits anytime, but members always save on kits. So think about becoming a member of our Club Scrap family. We certainly would love to have you. If you liked the Starry Night theme and you happen to be a scrapbooker, be sure to check out that Starry Night page kit. It is a beauty, and we'll make 8 pages together in that workshop video. So come and join me for that, and I can't wait to see you in my next workshop. Thanks for joining me.